You're in your suburban home. It's day 32 without power. The freeze-dried meal you're reheating over your propane camp stove. Your last canister, by the way, tastes like cardboard soaked in regret. Your Berkey filter cracked because you didn't store it properly. Your solar panel stopped charging because you never learned how the charge controller actually works. And now it's a $400 paperweight. Your AR-15 sits in the corner, spotless, because you've fired maybe 60 rounds total in the 3 years you've owned it. Your neighbors, the ones you never bothered to meet, knocked on your door yesterday. You pretended you weren't home. They haven't come back. You're running out of food. You're running out of water. You're running out of time. Now rewind 90 years. It's 1934, Oklahoma, Dust Bowl. A farmer stands in a field that hasn't seen rain in 8 months. His mule is thin. His children are thinner. He has no electricity, no running water, no government check coming, no freeze-dried meals, no tactical gear. What he has, a hoe, a dried-up well he'll dig deeper by hand, a wife who can make a meal out of nothing, neighbors who will help him raise a barn in exchange for labor next month, and the ability to work 14 hours in 100-degree heat without quitting. He will survive. You won't. Let's talk about why. Modern prepping is a lie. Not the idea of being prepared, that's fine. The lie is what we've been sold as preparation. The lie is the $10,000 gear list. The lie is the YouTube videos and the forums and the freeze-dried food buckets stacked in the basement, and the belief that purchasing things equals readiness. The lie is that you can buy your way out of collapse. You can't, because when the grid goes down for real, when the supply chain doesn't come back, when your gadgets break and your stored food runs out and you're left with just you and the world, what matters isn't what you own. It's what you can do. It's who you are. And if you're honest, really honest, you're not ready. Not even close. Here's the test. Forget the collapse fantasies for a second. Forget the EMP or the nuclear war or the grid down scenario. Just answer this. Could you survive the way your great-grandparents did in the 1930s? Could you work a farm with hand tools and a mule? Could you grow, harvest, preserve, and store enough food to feed yourself for a year? Could you butcher a pig, tan a hide, build a shelter, start a fire without a lighter, dig a well, sew your own clothes, live without electricity, running water, or modern medicine? Could you do it not for a weekend, not for an Instagram post, but for years? And could you do it while half starving, while watching your kids go hungry, while the topsoil blows away and the rain doesn't come and the bank tries to take your land? No, you couldn't. And neither could I, at least not without years of training. And that's the point. Our ancestors weren't superhuman. They were just hard and were soft, dangerously, fatally soft. Let's establish the baseline. The Great Depression, 1929 to 1939. Unemployment hits 25%, 15 million people out of work, 9,000 banks collapse, life savings gone, no deposit insurance, no safety net, prices drop 30%, but wages drop 42%, so nobody can afford anything anyway. 250,000 farms foreclosed, families evicted, hunger everywhere, breadlines in every city. Hoovervilles, shantytowns made of scrap metal and cardboard, spring up in every major urban center. This isn't some distant apocalypse. This is America, less than 100 years ago. And then the Dust Bowl hits, 1930 to 1936. The Southern Plains, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, turn into a desert, 100 million acres of farmland destroyed. Drought, wind, topsoil erosion from decades of poor farming practices. The result, black blizzards. Dust storms so thick they bury houses, kill livestock, choke children.
2.5 million people displaced.
Diokies. Families packing everything they own onto a truck and heading west to California, where they find no jobs, no welcome, just more hunger and hostility. Read The Grapes of Wrath if you want the visceral version. It's not fiction. It's documentary. And through all of this, no Social Security. That doesn't get passed until 1935, and the first payments don't go out until 1940. No food stamps, no unemployment insurance, no FEMA. Number 9/11. If you got hurt, you hoped the neighbor knew how to set a bone. If you got hungry, you grew food or you starved. The government eventually steps in with New Deal programs, WPA, CCC, farm subsidies, but that takes years. And in the meantime, people have to survive on their own. So how do they do it? Not with gear, with capabilities. First, physical capacity. These people worked. I mean, really worked. 10 to 14 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, manual labor. No tractors for most small farms. Those didn't become widespread until the 1940s and 50s. You had a mule, maybe a horse. You had hand tools, a hoe, a plow, an axe, a saw. You dug ditches by hand. You hauled water in buckets. You chopped firewood until your hands bled, and then you wrapped them and kept chopping because if you didn't, you froze. Women worked just as hard cooking, cleaning, sewing, canning, gardening, childcare, all without electric appliances. Children worked too. By age 10, a farm kid could milk a cow, feed chickens, weed a garden, haul water. By age 12, they could handle an axe, a plow, a rifle. Their bodies were tools: calloused hands, strong backs, high pain tolerance, endurance. Compare that to now. 73% of American adults are overweight or obese. 80% don't meet the basic physical activity guidelines. 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. That's 30 minutes 5 days a week. Most people can't do that. Most preppers can't do that. You own a bug out bag, but can you carry it 10 miles? You own an axe, but can you swing it for an hour without your hands blistering open? You own body armor, but can you run 100 yards in it without puking? Second, skills. 1930s farmers were generalists. They had to be. You couldn't specialize when survival required 20, 30, 40 different competencies. Animal husbandry, milking cows, castrating pigs, birthing foals, slaughtering chickens, gardening, saving seeds, crop rotation, companion planting, pest control, soil building, food preservation, canning vegetables, smoking meat, salting fish, drying fruit, fermenting kraut, storing root crops in cellars, carpentry, building sheds, repairing roofs, making furniture, crafting tool handles, sewing, making clothes from flour sacks, patching pants until they were more patch than pants, quilting for warmth, cooking from scratch, no recipes, on a wood-fired stove with whatever you had, foraging, knowing which wild plants were edible, where to find them, when to harvest, water, digging wells, priming pumps, purifying by boiling, first aid, setting broken bones, stitching wounds with needle and thread, using herbal poultices, blacksmithing, or at least basic metalwork, sharpening tools, repairing equipment, improvising fixes. These weren't hobbies, these were requirements. You learned from their parents, who learned from their parents. Apprenticeship, hands on. By the time you were an adult, these skills were muscle memory. You didn't need to think about how to butcher a chicken. You just did it. Now, ask yourself, how many of those skills do you have? A 2021 survey of 1,200 preppers found that 68% had never started a fire without a lighter or matches. 81% had never butchered an animal. 54% had never grown food to the point of harvest. 91% had never lived without electricity for more than a week, but 70 to 6% rated themselves as very prepared.
That's not confidence, that's delusion.
Third, psychological resilience. This might be the biggest gap. 1930s farmers didn't just endure hardship, they expected it. Hardship was normal. You planted in the spring and hoped for rain and prayed the locusts didn't come, and if the crop failed, you tightened your belt and tried again next year. You didn't collapse into despair. You didn't need therapy. You didn't post about it on social media. You accepted it. Stoicism wasn't a philosophy you read about. It was how you lived. Delayed gratification was built into the calendar. You planted seeds in April. You didn't eat the harvest until September. In between, you waited. You worked. You trusted the process. No instant results. No Amazon Prime 2-day delivery. If you wanted something, you made it, or you traded for it, or you did without. Pain was routine. Your back hurt. Your hands were cracked and bleeding. You had a toothache. You worked anyway. You didn't have the option to call in sick. There was no sick leave. The animals still needed feeding. The garden still needed weeding. You pushed through. Loss was expected. Children died. 1 in 10 infants didn't make it to their first birthday. Mothers died in childbirth. Infections killed people. Accidents killed people. You grieved, but you didn't break. You buried your dead and you kept going because there was no other choice. Now compare that to modern life. We've optimized for comfort, climate control, instant food, entertainment on demand, pain relief in a bottle. We've eliminated discomfort to the point where we can't handle any. The Wi-Fi goes out and people lose their minds. The power goes out for 6 hours and it's a crisis. Someone says something mean online and we need a safe space. 1 in 5 American adults is on psychiatric medication. Anxiety and depression are epidemic. We catastrophize over minor inconveniences. We feel entitled to comfort, to safety, to fairness. And when we don't get it, we break. Here's the test. Go 7 days with no electricity, no hot water, no phone, no internet. Sleep on the floor, eat only rice and beans. Work 10 hours a day on manual labor. Dig a garden bed, chop firewood, haul water, build something with your hands. No entertainment, no comfort, just work, basic food, cold water, hard rest. Can you do it without complaining? Without quitting? Without falling into a depression spiral? A 1930s farmer would call that a normal week. Most modern preppers would fail by day 3. Fourth, community. This is the one that gets ignored the most, especially in prepper culture, which tends toward lone wolf fantasies. But survival in the 1930s was communal. You didn't make it alone. You had family, often extended family, living on the same land or nearby. You had neighbors. You had church communities. You had networks, barn raisings. When someone needed a barn built, the whole community showed up, 20, 30, 40 people. Men framing and roofing, women cooking, kids hauling materials. The barn went up in a weekend, no money exchanged, just mutual aid. Next month, you'd help someone else. Harvest help. When it was time to bring in the wheat or the corn, you didn't do it alone. Neighbors came. You worked each other's fields. You shared equipment. A thresher, a plow. No one person could afford everything. You pooled resources, barter economy, cash was scarce, so you traded. Eggs for flour, labor for meat, milk for vegetables. Everyone had something someone else needed. Interdependence wasn't a buzzword, it was survival. Reputation mattered. If you were a good neighbor, reliable, honest, hardworking, people helped you. If you were selfish or lazy, you got ostracized. Social pressure enforced cooperation. Now look at modern suburban or urban life. You don't know your neighbors. You've lived next to them for 5 years and you don't know their names. You've never borrowed a tool. You've never helped them with a project. Your social network is online. Your community is a forum or a Discord server. You have no mutual aid structure, no barter network, no cooperative labor. You're isolated, and isolation is a death sentence. Lone wolves die. That's not rhetoric, that's biology. Humans are social animals. We survive in groups. You can't guard your home, hunt for food, work the land, and sleep at the same time. You can't know every skill. You can't carry every burden. Without a community, you're vulnerable to injury, illness, attack, and despair. One bad fall and you're done. One infected cut and you're done. One group of desperate people and you're outnumbered. Community isn't optional. It's survival. Fifth, improvisation. When you don't have money and you can't buy things and the things you have break, you improvise. You get creative. You become a MacGyver out of necessity. Flour sacks became dresses. Feed sacks became curtains, towels, underwear. Women would choose feed brands based on the pattern of the fabric because they knew it would end up as clothing. Tires became shoe soles. Scrap metal became hinges, handles, repairs. Broken tools got fixed with wire, wood, leather, whatever was on hand. Cooking, improvisation, no recipe, just ingredients. You'd make a meal out of lard, flour, and whatever vegetables you had. You'd stretch meat with beans and grains. You'd use every part of the animal, bones for broth, fat for soap, organs for meals, hides for leather. Trial and error was normal. You didn't have YouTube tutorials, you didn't have instruction manuals, you had oral tradition. Your parents showed you once, twice, maybe 3 times, and then you tried it yourself. You failed. You tried again. You got better. If the tool breaks or they don't have it, they freeze. They don't know how to improvise. They're uncomfortable with uncertainty. They need instructions. They need reassurance. And in a real collapse, when nothing goes according to plan and all your gear breaks and you're left with junk and desperation, that rigidity kills you. So let's recap. Your great-grandparents survived the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl with physical capability, strong bodies, high endurance, pain tolerance, skill breadth, 20 to 40 practical competencies learned from childhood, psychological resilience, stoicism, delayed gratification, acceptance of hardship and loss.
Community interdependence, mutual aid, barter, shared labor, social networks.
Improvisation ability, constant creativity, trial and error, making do with less. You have a sedentary lifestyle, a weak body, low pain tolerance, 2 to 5 skills, most of them theoretical, a comfort dependent mindset, catastrophic thinking, entitlement, social isolation, individualism, no mutual aid network, checklist rigidity, tutorial dependence, fear of failure. And yet you think you're prepared because you have an AR-15 and a Berkey filter and 6 months of freeze-dried food. You think gear equals readiness. It doesn't. Gear is a crutch. It's a comfort blanket. It's a way to avoid the hard truth, which is that survival isn't about what you own, it's about who you are. Here's what happens when the collapse comes. Your gear breaks, your filter clogs, your solar panel stops working, your food runs out, your ammo runs out, your bug out vehicle runs out of gas, and there's no more gas to be had.
What then? You can't Amazon Prime a replacement filter. You can't call a repairman.
You can't Google how to fix this. You're on your own. And if you don't have skills, if you don't have physical capacity, if you don't have mental toughness, if you don't have neighbors who trust you and will help you, you're done. Meanwhile, the ghost of that 1930s farmer, the one with the mule and the hoe and the calloused hands and the quiet endurance, he's still standing. He's dirty. He's hungry. He's tired. But he's standing because he doesn't need the gear. He is the gear. So what do? You make a shift, not a small shift, a fundamental, brutal, uncomfortable shift in how you think about preparedness. Stop buying. Start building. Every dollar you spend on another gadget is a dollar you didn't spend on seeds or tools or skills training. Every hour you spend shopping online is an hour you didn't spend learning to can tomatoes or chop wood or sew a seam. Buying feels like progress. It's not. It's procrastination. It's a dopamine hit. It's avoidance. Real preparation is uncomfortable. It's sweaty. It's frustrating. It's failing at something 5 times before you get it right. If you're still buying instead of doing, you're not serious. Seek discomfort, not comfort. Your comfort zone is a cage. Every comfort you can't live without is a weakness. Every dependency is a vulnerability. Modern life has made you soft. Softness kills. You need to harden yourself. Cold showers, sleeping on hard surfaces, fasting, physical exhaustion, boredom, hunger, cold, heat, discomfort. Do it on purpose. Do it now when it's voluntary, so that when it's involuntary, when the power's out and the heat's off and the food's scarce, you don't break. You need to build a tolerance for suffering because survival is suffering. And the person who can suffer without quitting will outlast the person who needs things to be comfortable. Train your body like a tool, because that's what it is. Your body is your primary survival tool. If it's weak, if it's broken, if it's fragile, you're done. Lose the weight, build the strength. Walk 10 miles. Carry heavy things. Swing an axe until your hands blister, and then keep swinging until the blisters become calluses. Work until you're exhausted, and then work a little more. Your ancestors did this every day. You can do it too. But you have to start. Learn by doing, not by watching, not by reading. By doing, you will fail. You'll burn food, you'll break tools, you'll waste materials. Good. That's how you learn. Every failure teaches something a video never could. Stop waiting to feel confident. Confidence comes after competence, and competence comes after repeated attempts. Start now. Attempt something hard this week. Fail at it. Try again. Fail better. Keep going. Build community, not bunkers. You can't survive alone. Stop planning to bug out to a cabin in the woods. That's a fantasy. Start planning to bug in with neighbors you trust. Meet them, learn their names, learn their skills, offer yours, help them with projects. Ask for help in return. Build social capital. Be the person people want around. Be reliable. Be generous. Be useful. Because when the crisis comes, the people who survive are the ones with a network, the ones who can trade, the ones who can cooperate, the ones who aren't alone. Cultivate gratitude and stoicism. Food, water, shelter, health. These are not rights. These are privileges. They can disappear. Be grateful for them now and practice stoicism. Read Marcus Aurelius. Read Epictetus. Learn to accept what you can't control. Learn to endure without complaint. Learn to separate what you need from what you want. Most of what you think you need, you don't. You can be happy with less. You can be happy with beans and rice and cold water and hard work and no entertainment. You need to learn that now before you're forced to learn it later. This is the shift. From consumer to craftsman, from soft to hard, from isolated to connected, from dependent to capable. It's not easy. It's not fast. It takes time. It takes work. It takes discomfort. But it's the only path that leads to actual preparedness. I'm going to give you a preview of what this looks like in practice. A 12-month program, a year to close the gaps, a year to become the person who could survive the 1930s. Month 1, physical awakening. You start moving every day. 10,000 steps, body weight exercises, manual labor. You chop wood, you dig, you carry water, you eliminate one comfort. You track your progress. You start building the tool. Month 5, you face the kill. You raise chickens. You care for them for 30 days. You feed them. You water them. You watch them. And then you butcher one. You kill it. You pluck it. You gut it. You portion it. You cook it. You eat it. You confront mortality. You process the discomfort. You learn that you can do hard things. Month 7, the hard week. 7 days with no electricity, no hot water, no phone, no comfort. You sleep on the floor. You eat beans and rice. You work 10 hours a day on manual tasks. You document your mental state. You push through the discomfort. You learn your breaking point. And then you learn you can go further than you thought. Month 12, the solo test. 7 days alone. Wilderness or off-grid. Minimal gear. Knife, axe, tarp, pot, fire kit. 3 days of food. You forage or hunt for the rest. You build shelter, you start fires, you source water, you navigate, you sit with your thoughts, you reflect, you come back different, harder, quieter, more capable, more humble. That's the program. 12 months, 12 challenges, each one harder than the last, each one designed to close a gap. Physical, skill, psychological, social, improvisation. By the end, you're not the same person. You're not soft anymore. You're not gear dependent. You're capable. You're hard. You're ready. But here's the part no one wants to hear. The brutal truths. You're probably going to die. Most people in collapse scenarios die. Historically, 10 to 30% mortality in famines, sieges, prolonged disasters. Survival is the exception, not the rule. Your odds improve with skills, with community, with resilience. But there are no guarantees. Accepting that, really accepting it, frees you. Because if you're going to die anyway, you might as well die trying. You might as well die hard. And maybe, just maybe, you won't die. But you have to accept the possibility. Your gear will fail or be stolen.
Gear breaks.
It runs out. It rusts. It gets taken by someone more desperate or more violent. The only thing that can't be stolen is what's in your head and in your muscles. Skills, strength, endurance, mental toughness. Those are yours. No one can take them. You'll have to do horrible things. You'll kill animals with your hands. You'll watch people suffer. Maybe people you love. You'll make triage decisions. Who eats? Who gets the medicine? You might have to defend your home with violence. You'll carry guilt. You'll carry trauma. Survival isn't heroic. It's ugly. It's brutal. And if you make it, you'll be different, harder, colder. That's the price. Lone wolves die. I said it before. I'll say it again. Isolation is suicide. If you're planning to go it alone, change your plan. Build your community now. Or accept that you're planning to fail. Comfort is your enemy. Every comfort you can't live without is a chain. Every dependency is a weakness. The person who's happy with beans, cold water, a hard bed, and no entertainment, that person will outlast you. Start breaking your dependencies now, one at a time. Learn to be happy with less. Learn to be happy with nothing. And here's the last one. Buying stuff feels like preparation, but it's procrastination. Every time you click add to cart, you're avoiding the real work. The real work is training, practicing, failing, suffering, building. The real work is becoming the person who doesn't need the stuff. If you're still shopping, you're not preparing. You're just spending money and lying to yourself. So here's your checklist. 50 points, 10 per category. Physical capability. Can you walk 10 miles with a 30-pound pack, chop and stack a quarter cord of wood in 2 hours, carry 2 5-gallon water buckets a quarter mile, work 6 hours of manual labor without collapsing? Is your BMI under 30? Give yourself 2 points for each yes. That's 10 possible. Skills. Can you grow and harvest food, preserve food, butcher an animal, start a fire without a lighter, build or repair tools or structures? 2 points each. 10 possible. Psychological resilience. Have you survived a 7-day no comfort challenge without quitting? Fasted for 48 hours? Practiced daily gratitude or stoicism for 30 plus days? Faced and processed your fear of death? Can you function without psychiatric medication, or are you not on any? Points for each. 10 possible. Social capital. Do you know 10 or more neighbors by name and skill? Have you organized or participated in a mutual aid event? Have you successfully bartered? Are you part of a community organization? Do your neighbors trust you? Would they help you in a crisis? Points for each. 10 possible. Improvisation. Have you solved a problem with junk materials and no instructions? Repaired 5 or more items instead of replacing them? Cooked 10 plus meals without a recipe? Built something functional without a tutorial? Are you comfortable with failure and iteration? Points for each. 10 possible. Add it up. 40 to 50. You're a 1930s farmer. You'd survive. 25 to 39. You're developing. You have gaps, but you're trainable. 10 to 24. You're a modern prepper. Gear rich, capability poor. 0 to 9. You're a consumer. You're in the danger zone. Start now. Where do you fall? Be honest, because your life might depend on it. Your ancestors survived the Great Depression with a mule, a hoe, and grit. They survived the Dust Bowl. They survived without electricity, without medicine, without government help. They survived because they were hard, because they had skills, because they had each other, because they could endure suffering without breaking. You have night vision goggles, you have freeze-dried food, you have tactical gear and bug-out bags and more guns than you need.
But you're soft. You're isolated. You're dependent.
And when the real collapse comes, not the fantasy you've imagined, but the grinding, ugly, brutal reality, your gear won't save you. Your skills might, your strength might, your community might, your mind might. So stop buying, start building. Build your body, build your skills, build your community, build your resilience. Build the person who doesn't need the gear. Build the person who could survive the 1930s. Build the person your ancestors would recognize. Build the hard person, because that's the only person who makes it. Not the one with the most gear, not the one with the best plan, the one who can endure, the one who can adapt, the one who can work and suffer and keep going when everyone else quits, the one who's hard. Your ancestors were hard. You carry their blood. You carry their genes. You have the capacity. But capacity isn't capability until you train it, until you test it, until you forge it in discomfort and failure and sweat. So here's the question, not, are you prepared? That's the wrong question. The right question is, are you the kind of person who could survive? Not with your gear, without it, with just your hands and your mind and your will. If the answer is no, you have work to do. Start today, not tomorrow, today. Choose one challenge, one shift, one discomfort, and begin. Because the collapse isn't coming, it's already here. It's just slow, it's just gradual, but it's coming. And when it arrives in full, when the grid goes down and the supply chains break and the systems fail and you're left with nothing but who you are, will you be ready? Your great-grandparents would have been. They were. They proved it. Now it's your turn.